worry guys, the title of this video is a joke. There will be no bloody comparisons to Dark Souls in this video. Journalists, stop it. Anyway, hello everyone, Caddy here, and today I'll be talking about one of my absolute favourite games of this year so far, the incredibly ambitious and mostly entirely delivered Cuphead. Or is it Cuphead? Well, no. Because his head is a cup. Spoilers, alright, okay, nice. From the second this game was revealed a few years ago, I thought it was one of the coolest damn games I'd ever seen, and I was anticipating it every single day after I saw it. Cuphead was always on my brain. Even if the game wasn't going to be great, I was convinced it would be an indie hit popularity-wise to rival something like Super Meat Boy, purely from its incredible aesthetics. I could see toys, shirts, TV shows, I could see a fucking empire out of this adorable little bugger, and today I'm thrilled to report that Cuphead isn't just pretty, but uses like a marble statue. It's pretty and effective, like a marble statue that came to life and gave me lots of galaxy caramel. This is simply, to put it bluntly, no joke, one of the most utterly gorgeous and irresistibly beautiful video games ever created that will never ever be dated if you ask me. Not just from the fact it perfectly replicates 1930s animation styles and character designs fantastically, and so, yeah, they've aged like fine wine as well, but also from its commitment to a consistent, unique art style that never ever feels stale from repetitive sprites or models. Every single second you see something original, something different, something mind-blowingly detailed, for something as small as a creature that dies in one hit to bosses that tower and dominate their amazing backdrops. Every frame this game runs at makes you feel like you are playing through a classic animation series long forgotten, even so much to the detail of crackles and burns on the external filter of the game in the style of a film reel. Not once did I feel like the devs just programmed a random enemy to appear and do something, and even when there's repeated characters or drawings as enemies or projectiles to avoid, it never felt like they were copied and pasted even though they technically were. Every single tiny thing on the screen feels as alive as you when you're playing the game, and that commitment to the style it so magnificently captures is even present in the fantastically upbeat classic jazz soundtrack that even on occasion deliberately mixes with the gameplay and visuals to create something truly special and brimming with character. In this stage, for instance, whenever I managed to get this Cyclops chasing me, I could swear the game deliberately halted me for a split second just so that the steps of the Cyclops were either synced to the music on the beat or off the beat. Maybe I was just really lucky with the timing in which I got here on multiple retries, but if it has been programmed to do that, then fuck, it's ingenious. And consider this as well, assuming that a lot of 1930s animations were done in the typical 24 frames per second, this game runs at 60, so all of these fluent, stretchy, rubbery, incredible animations were done with 60 frames on each second. And these are all hand drawings. I know Unity has an extremely bad reputation and ultimately is responsible for many video game equivalents to John Hurt's stomach in Alien, but after things like Oddworld New and Tasty were proudly made with Unity, and now this fucker comes along to surprise the world at the ending credits, god damn, that goes to show the level of dedication to artistry the team displayed going into the game. It also helps how the story of Cuphead and Mugman going out gambling one day and deciding to make a deal with the devil on their next dice roll, and then losing the bet, so needing to collect the souls of all the big bosses of their home island in order to pay the devil back and not die, is simple, ridiculous, and not a focus of the game at all, working in tangent really well with the animations it's inspired by that also didn't put the story first. At the end of the game, you even get to choose to accept the devil's offer of letting him own you, rule the world, and keep all of the souls of the bosses you knocked out in exchange for your life, and I was too scared to say yes and ruin my save file forever, but it's cool that that choice was there for such a morbid and sadistic plot presented in this way. Cuphead and Mugman can be dicks. So yes, story hasn't been put first, and I've gushed about the omnipotent beauty of this game for more minutes than it takes for me to shit, so let's actually talk about the gameplay now. Does it stack up to the visuals? Yes! Oh God, yes! And in more ways than just feeling authentically like a slapstick cartoon. This is one of the most rewarding yet challenging 2D games I've ever played in my life, and it's insanely mechanically satisfying as much as it is frustrating on a pube-ripping level. By the end of the game, you'll be wishing Cuphead was real and that his head was filled with coffee to help you concentrate, or vodka because you've given up on life. This is a hard game. Don't let its cute exterior fool you to think otherwise. Before any equipable charms are purchased, your standard hit count is 3 for every stage, with no way to get any of it back apart from the penultimate gambling boss gauntlet before the end. So you need to bring your A game to avoid the onslaught of bullets, unpredictable patterns, and unexploitable toughness the bosses and platforming stages will throw at you. What makes this all work though is how the game is structured. Each stage only lasts between a minute and 3 minutes at most, so getting to the end is a simple question of patience, persistence, and improvement by learning. And I have to sincerely disagree with many other journalists that are calling a lot of this game cheap trial and error. I just don't agree with that. It's a relentlessly fast game with extremely quick stages, and once you're in a stage, every death and restart to the beginning of a stage is as quick as a slap on the wrist until you can slap the game back, and it feels amazing to have this back and forth, especially with such tiny stages as they are. So it's never that big of a problem to restart a stage from the beginning, and the just one more time mentality is strong because of that. And if you're worried that the game isn't going to last very long because of these 1 to 3 minute long stages, don't worry, you'll be kept very busy. Despite all of my final rankings for each stage being about 1 to 3 minutes, I was on the game for a good 5 to 6 hours from start to end all in all. Yes, it's not the biggest game in the world, but everything that it sets out to do is done in the perfect amount of time. It also helps how the game changes every few minutes, from locations to character designs, attack patterns, platform challenges and enemies, and if you find yourself stuck on a stage for whatever reason, you'll usually find another 1 or 2 stages to try on the hub world until you're ready to come back with a fresh head, a move I used constantly and it really benefited. It's worth saying though that 75% of this game is boss battles, no joke. The stage begins and you're fighting through multiple opponents and phases until that glorious noise is sounded and you fist bump the ceiling in delight, which does mean I can't recommend this game to absolutely everybody in the world. If you don't like constant strings of boss battles, you aren't going to enjoy this game. But for those of you who do sound interested, well yeah, as you can tell, the game clearly doesn't fuck around with you or unfairly makes you go through long ass stages with no checkpoints until you reach a boss for one single attempt. The game is that confident in itself that it mostly exists as a series of really short bosses that will somehow squeeze hours of gameplay out of you without ever feeling repetitive, and amazingly the time flies by without you even realizing it. And no, I personally could not see any trial and error, and I found the game truly hard but really fair, even to the extent of falling down pits, just chipping off your health and bouncing you back up to the stage instead of killing you, and no knockback at all. The game is extremely quick and the enemies can flail around, yes, but the damage that they'll output to you is entirely readable and avoidable if you're quick enough to react in time. That's why there's a ranking system. You can get through this without taking a single hit. Arguably not on this bitch with her Medusa gaze inside this cavern though. How do you avoid this attack exactly? And this attack in the final boss is a little bit nonsensical and unpredictable, but you learn what it does from that moment onwards with the cost of 1 hit point, and it is the final boss, so it's not a massive deal. And no matter how seemingly impossible it can appear, there's always a trick to get past a part or avoid an attack, and the game is really good at teaching you through the gameplay to avoid particular things at particular animations. Like I said, it's readable, and it's not even like you have to remember tons and tons of attacks in a sequence. Everything looks so natural that it just clicks with your head. I also feel that the lack of a side strafe that could let you constantly fire in one direction was a welcome idea, not only because it would make the lock-on aiming trigger nowhere near as useful as it is already, but it also means that you need to be as careful with your shots as well as your positioning. And if you don't quite like the sound of that, well, does holding the button down to rapidly fire nearly every single gun instead of constant tapping save it a little bit? Bosses morph through so many imaginative phases that it was a joy to just see which bit was going to kick my ass next. And on every retry, I even totally change attack patterns and combinations of secondary and primary attacks so that you aren't learning the exact same rudimentaries over and over again. That's why it doesn't feel repetitive. There are some bosses that even like to throw mini bosses at you before you can attack them, and there's a possibility you can get through that boss on the first attempt and miss out 2 or 3 extra mini bosses that they could have used against you if you were to retry. Even projectiles that you can parry are randomly chosen to flash pink for you to gain a single special ability use on every retry of a stage, so you can't cheat the game and plan everything ahead, and that's awesome. You need to be on your game and paying attention, especially in the often insane flying stages. Parrying itself is a very cool mechanic as well, with enemies or projectiles flashing pink and you needing to time a double jump to pacify the attack and give yourself a special attack charge, giving you a nice risk and reward system. It's not too hard to fuck this up, so you need to be careful, and super moves themselves don't only look brilliant and change depending on your equipped weapon, but after doing some mausoleum minigames protecting a vase from ghosts, you also get the chance to use supercharge attacks and invulnerable states that use all 5 maximum charges that you can charge slowly through combat or just get from parries. Yet another risk and reward system that actually pays off, playing conservatively, patiently and skillfully with the parries for the chance to unleash utter devastation if you can wait that long to use the super attack instead of any of the previous special attacks. However, I must be honest, I did think that the 2 offensive super attacks left you a little bit too vulnerable after and during their use, which kind of nullified the effect of using them a little bit, which was very sad in my opinion. I really think that there should have been more iframes here for a better reward. I also loved all of the purchasable weapons and equipable items you can get from finding all of the coins in the platforming stages, and seeing as that you can only switch between 2 weapons and 1 item at a time before entering any stage, there's a surprisingly deep mix and match rock paper scissors approach to preparing yourself before a stage or boss, along with the costs and benefits to consider, so you're better suited to deal with particular stage hazards but never overpowered. For instance, with some stages I found extra hit points but less attack power very beneficial. Then in others, the invincible dash ability that unfortunately makes you invisible, so hard to see where you're gonna land, I found useful. And there's also the constant special attack recharge charging when you're doing nothing, 1 automatic parry, 1 parrying counterattack, and they all change your approach to stages enough as it is without all of the other weapons to buy and equip 2 at a time for your finger gun that mix and match with every situation you can imagine. The high power but extremely low range spread gun, the long range average damage straight shooter, the decent damage and bouncy but slower firing cannon, and the extremely powerful but non-rapid fire charging shot I got the most use out of, and every stage has a better combination of all of the others to use at particular points depending on how big the bosses are, how they move and are positioned in the stages, the phases that they go through and all the kinds of attacks and enemies that they can use, and if they can be attacked to prevent them from hitting you. These things are all factors that govern which weapons you'd want to work best with for each situation, and I was really surprised on the depth for this. The only time this didn't apply in is in the flying stages, but learning the ability to switch between bombs and bullets and foregoing attack range to go extra fast and shrink at the same time by holding the Y button were all spicy enough additions to the formula without changing the core ideas, so it really doesn't matter. Plus the supercharged attack here when you get all 5 charges is just way too cool, along with the onomatopoeic tuba over here. It's charming, alright? The decision of no inclusion of boss health bars was also very smart in my opinion, purely for the reason your adrenaline level never drops as you attack relentlessly, hoping and praying that you're entering the next phase or ending the fight really soon, giving this sense of agency to the encounters that I wasn't expecting. And I suppose a health bar would look a little bit too video gamey and superficial on top of such a work of art. And with every death showing you your exact position along the stage or damage that you dealt until you defeated the boss, not only adds to the just one more time mentality if you were ridiculously close to the end, but also gives you the feedback on your success after your failure. It's encouragement more than a smack in the face and doesn't encourage bad habits from you during play, like getting impatient and rushing the boss in the last inch of health to go. Sometimes less is more. Even in the hub world, yeah, it's not the best or most interesting in the world, but the NPCs you can chat to aren't all just adorable, but also give you subtle hints to gameplay and reveal secrets to you in a totally natural way that feels part of this magical world that the team has created. Even playing in 2-player with my family on the odd occasion was so much damn fun and didn't impact the challenge of the game from how it balances your double attack power with larger enemy hit points. And I can't explain the amount of fun we all had screaming and begging each other to save us from death by parrying our ghost for one last hit point, and the way that after every death you suffer, the ghost moves faster away from the screen, giving your partner less time to save you. And true teamwork is properly rewarded. I was telling my partner to attack in one place while I focused on other enemy attacks elsewhere. I just love this game, alright? If anything, I just wish there were a lot more of the platforming run and gun sequences. What we have here is fantastic since the controls and mechanics never change or add unnecessary things to them, but every succeeding regular stage gets trickier by testing those same mechanics that you know to their natural extremes, with new ideas like changing gravity and jump dashing into parry double jumps to avoid dangerous pits. Yeah, I do wish there was a little bit more to the game like this, absolutely, but I guess that's kind of a good thing, seeing as though I loved them that much in the first place, right? And the rest of the game is so damn great as it is anyway, so it's not a huge problem. But I wasn't too sure about the shop system. For as cool and varied the things you can buy are, I really don't understand why it works like it does. There are a limited amount of coins to find in the whole game, and unfortunately you can't buy everything you'd like to in one playthrough on your own, so you have to pick and choose what you want to buy. But you only have a certain amount of items available at a point in time. And much like other games where you can get more expensive variations and upgrades on the same thing that you start to buy into, you unlock more things to buy the more that you buy. But there's no way to tell whatsoever what items will appear next depending on which item that you buy. So how the fuck are you supposed to know where to invest your very limited coins in when you could end up never buying an item you don't want, but then missing out on a mystery item that you might want after that one, or buying a load of items but then ending up with an item at the end of a chain that you may never use because you haven't got the money but you really bloody want it. This happened with me on the 2 additional hit point vial that I had no idea was even there until the end of the game, and I had no possible way of obtaining it. Look, I get that gambling is a theme of the game, but it made me more worried than anything entering the shop and potentially wasting my money or missing out on really good items that you have no indication or idea or even coming up on each little chain of the items that you buy. It's just a bit backwards, that's all. However, all those things aside, Cuphead really is a brilliant fucking game and definitely worth the wait. Put it this way, you guys know me, I'm not a PC gamer, I work on my PC and I need to take breaks from it as much as possible. So believe it or not, I got an Xbox One just so I could play Cuphead, and you know what, I don't regret it whatsoever, and now that's a good thing because I can play a couple of Xbox 360 games and Xbox One games I always wanted to at least have a look at. And I can't wait to start some videos in the future on more Xbox exclusive games whenever I can do them, or Caddicarus episodes, who knows. So yeah, Cuphead sold me on an Xbox One, there you go, and I won't say it was worth my purchase of the console entirely alone, that's a little bit reckless of me to say, but it was definitely the tipping point for me, and holy shit, I'm glad I tipped, because I would have hated to have missed out on this one. Whether you have it on PC or Xbox, I massively recommend Cuphead, and I give it a 9 out of 10. If it's your birthday today while watching this video, happy frickin' birthday to you, and please remember to stay beautiful.
Subscribe.
But thanks so much for watching this video, everybody, and if you'd like to support the show on Patreon and get your names in the credits or see Caddicarus episodes 24 hours early with no ads at all, head to the description like all of these people on the screen now did. And special thanks to the top tier Patreon donators: Omar Matu, Patrick Ferguson, Andy Ellis, Robert Alamsha, I Have a Portal Gun, Gamer Man, Kirsten B, QB, Matthew Elliott, Nathan Young, Nicole Ganara, Jacob Pappenfuss, and Karsten. Thanks so much, everybody.